So that takes us to fairly recently. I've spent the last 10 to it's been 15 years at the school now, so there was a great period of time where I just was happy to teach. And frankly, I lost the urge to go out and be in a play. It was kind of demanding to work all day and then all night. And so I was very comfortable for quite some time with just being me teaching. And then something changed. Something changed in me and around me, which was an unfortunate incident having to do with one of my former students, a kid who graduated in 2008 and took his own life. Yeah, and so he was out of school, high school, for about 2 years when for whatever reason, decided that life was not showing him anything worth sticking around for. And this was a very talented, brilliant kid. And I won't dwell on this part of the story too long because it's a little bit maudlin. But
It sounds like it was an important event in your life.
It took me from, in my narrative here, of like a guy who was doing some cool stuff earlier, making a buck, but barely, but being a true artist, to going to being a teacher, getting comfortable with that, and then having something stimulate him to move forward. I have to put this part of the story into the mix. But the long and short of it is that this young man had 4 screenplays written by the time he was graduating high school, pretty producible, no talented actor, but just a bright, bright kid. And it made me angry that I saw a lot of my young friends coming out of high school, fairly well trained in our program and knowing that there's more out there, looking at a world that was not offering them very much. Unless they went through the paces of college and then a master's degree, and it's a long, hard road to become an artist. So I asked myself, what could I do about that? How can I respond? After getting over the initial shock, grown-ups grieve and then respond, I like to think. And my response was, dark pool. In a way, and that takes us to this level of the story. It was that little bit of a fire to get me going. The rest of the story gets very exciting and very positive.
All right, before you tell it, can I ask? I got a question. Was writing Dark Pool then cathartic to you, and how you dealt with the experience of your suicide?
It was. It is. And continues to be cathartic. That's exactly the way I would put it. I started out, and a little bit magical in a way, because honestly, my focus wasn't on the story at first. It was on this response to this problem. I really wanted to bring together my young friends who had graduated high school and give them a platform to take the next level before they race off to Hollywood. At 18, I'm not sure you should just run off and go to Hollywood anymore. It's a little scary down there, and then if you do, you'll be back in 6 months, feeling defeated. I decided to create a little layer for them to start with, and that was my focus. So someone had to write something, is really where it started, and it had to be me because no one knew what I was talking about 2 to 3 years ago. When you said web series a couple of years ago, people went, "I'm sorry, what is that?" And I barely knew. I was actually being taught by my filmmaking students what they were, and I saw them as bite-sized, little mini projects that if you linked them together, you might get a bigger project if you could keep it going long enough. And so that was my focus. The story actually came out of driving down the road and seeing an Amber Alert sign and having that moment of instinctual protectiveness that we all feel. I think your average person goes, "Oh no, I hope they find her," "Oh dear." And I had that response, and of course, and I ruminated on it. I was alone in the car, and I thought, isn't that interesting that we have that response? And then that little writer in me woke up after so long and asked the question, which is what writers are supposed to do: what if the opposite was true? What if we didn't have that response? What if we didn't care? What world would that be? And there you have the beginning. That's the essence. What would happen if we had a world where no one cared if somebody disappeared? And then, of course, you have to have one guy care, right? And then the next thing I know, I've got Jim Crawl, and the story begins. So I dashed out 5 episodes. I tried to keep it very, very isolated to a house, the backyard, the front yard, the upstairs, the downstairs, and I knew that we would be limited in terms of what we could accomplish, and I knew that I couldn't ask my professional film friends who have 30 years of experience to come in and mentor my younger people for very long without getting them a little bit angry. So I isolated it down to this fairly simple story that takes him to the point where I don't want to spoil anybody's enjoyment of the show, but until he gets the message that his daughter is gone. And so we filmed all of that in short order, about 4 to 5 days all told, in and around someone's house, and they were happy to see us leave after we were done, but they were very understanding, and we began this process.